Welcome to episode 3 of the Daily Entrepreneur Show. And today I'm here with Jack and James. And let's go ahead and get started off with a fun one. And that's talking about Luka Doncic. And he's in a trademark battle with his mom. At the age of 16, Luka was a star on Slovenia, and pretty much he relied on his mom for partnership and business advice. So his mom ended up taking the trademark of Luka Doncic 7, and right now he's struggling to get that back from his mom. What are your guys' takes on that?
I think it's pretty weird that, you find yourself in this, trademark battle for your own name with someone within your own family. I mean, we've talked about recently how, different companies could hold the trademark to your personal brand, but your own family member, that just makes things a little bit tougher. If anything, like you would hope that, that there's some deal that, that there's nothing going on behind the scenes that, his mom might think that like, oh, if she gives the trademark over, then she's not going to still be able to reap the benefits of her son being this prominent figure in the NBA, which, I don't know the behind the scenes story, but I'm assuming that Luka would take care of his mom.
Yeah, especially considering he just signed like a $215 million contract with the Mavericks. I mean, they're taking care of her life, so I'm sure they'll be able to work something out of that, though.
Yeah, it just makes you think, though, you really never know the relationship that people have within their family behind the scenes. So maybe, it might be one of those like Britney Spears situations where their family is just trying to reap the benefits of their name for as long as they can.
Yeah, and it's pretty wild. So, I mean, hopefully that we can see, like, Luka can get the rights to his name. Obviously his mom, took care of him and helped him get to that point. So, obviously, like, I think she definitely should be taken care of. But, I mean, that's tough. I mean, he's a grown man now, like, and he's, one of the biggest athletes on the planet. Like, he definitely, we want to see him succeed in that, right? But, let's move on. I have this, we found this one story about this one entrepreneur. His name's Hyung-jung, and he started 2 companies that had actually failed, but now is the CEO and founder of a company called Ovice, which has raised a total of $45 million. So I want to get in and talk to, a couple of the companies that he had started that didn't work out, that he had started when he was 18 and 20 years old. One of them being an AI bot to help college, high school students try to get into college. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I was seeing that like he had people on payroll that he was paying for the company that he ended up going into debt. That I guess like credit card debt because he couldn't afford and wasn't making enough like money off the company to have the money coming in. And to see him kind of like pivot, and they talked a lot about how like being adaptable and flexible, obviously if any entrepreneur is like a pivotal skill to have, and that was something that he obviously used because he pivoted from the artificial intelligence kind of software that he was using for test scores and stuff like that to now it's like a virtual kind of like office check places that he's doing or something like that now, and it's raised a total of I guess that last round they did 30 million last month. They're up to like 45 million now.
45 million total.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting about the business he started at 21, and that was helping examination. Is pretty much examination for Japanese university admission, and he said that at the time only about 1,000 students a year were taking that test. So even though investors, whenever he talked to them, they would be like, hey, you need to push into a bigger market because this simply just isn't big enough. And he pretty much said, no, I'm just going to keep pushing regardless, and because I believe in my product. But ultimately, that shows you that sometimes the market for the business just isn't big enough, and that's ultimately why it failed.
Yeah, and I mean, in the article, he talks a lot about pivoting and how important that is as an entrepreneur. I mean, his first business that he started at 18 was a trading business, more so in the trade of helping manufacturers and suppliers get to the right, get their products to the right place that they need to go. And talking about pivoting as an entrepreneur, when COVID came, that's kind of why that business shut down. And ultimately, those failures and learning how to pivot is probably what led him to when he started Ovice, to be able to navigate what to do during the COVID pandemic and everything.
I mean, I think Ovice is a really neat software because it shows you, if you guys aren't familiar with what Ovice is, it's pretty much, imagine Zoom, but in a more casual way. So pretty much it has your entire workspace and office within its platform, and you can pretty much go up to individual team members or departments and go ahead and have a casual conversation with people with just one click. So that way you're able to figure out bottlenecks and have more of that in-person experience online. And I think this is great for companies because it gives you that environment to be able to talk to your team members in that hybrid model that's so popular now in 2022.
Yeah, just going from, basically stacking your credit card with a bunch of debt just to be able to pay employees to now he's, got 10 million in revenue a year. It's pretty incredible.
So I guess that takes us into our last article, which was, is college a waste of money for entrepreneurs? And something that really stood out to me about this article was that roughly the same amount of entrepreneurs that graduate with a college degree, there's roughly the same amount of entrepreneurs that do not go to college. So there is a pretty big mix of entrepreneurs on whether they go to college or not. And I feel like in today's world, that's become a more prominent question, especially with the way technology is, social media, how just everything's evolved. And, it's crazy. I mean, there is like a $1.7 trillion, student debt crisis that's going on right now. And tons of people are struggling with that. Now, despite college, yes, there are various networking opportunities and cultural experiences and potentially getting out of your hometown. But is it really worth it to, potentially pay up to $50,000 a year if you're going out of state, or even, at a minimum, you're going to be spending about $100,000 just to go get that degree. So I think people really need to consider, if you have that idea, if you can get capital, if you can obtain the skills yourself. What are your guys' thoughts on that, on going to college as an entrepreneur?
I really think that it depends on what business that you want to start. If you are interested in entrepreneurship, for the majority of them, you don't need to go to college. If you want to be a lawyer and open your own practice, that's a form of entrepreneurship. You need to go to law school. Same thing for your own practice as a doctor, an accounting service. But if you want to just get into a startup from the ground up, as long as you have the framework that you think you need to take yourself forward, I would rather argue that if you don't think you're ready to jump into the business yet, maybe college isn't the right answer, but you need to go out and work in that industry for a period of time until you think you're ready to make that leap. There's a couple people, some people that could just bootstrap their way right out of college, or right out of high school, which is great depending on which route you go. But for the most part, most people, entrepreneurs, they don't really know what company they want to start until they work in their industry and then maybe branch off of that. Like we talked about the robotics guys in yesterday's episode. Mitch Tolson worked for Miso Robotics before he started Ally Robotics. And so I think it really just depends on, if you know what you want to do, then you can just go hop and work in that industry or just get started on your company right away. So I wouldn't go to college.
Yeah, I'd say for about 90% of businesses that you want to start, you really don't need college, but you still got to get educated somehow. So you got to go through like the school of hard knocks. So if you want to start like an outdoor, remodeling business, I think you should go and work in that industry for 2-3 years, familiarize yourself with all the contracts necessary, how the business ebbs and flows, and then you can also see how other companies, what systems they're using, and take some ideas from the companies that you work in and implement them into your own, and then also make some changes that you think are better into your own business when you want to start that. But ultimately, I think some form of education is important, but that doesn't always mean that that education is necessarily college.
Right, and I think a lot of it really depends on kind of like the resources and the opportunities that are kind of present to you at that time. But I think a big misconception that a lot of people have is they think that if you don't have it figured out, like when you're done with high school, they say go to college and get it figured out. But it's like that's, in my opinion, just an ultimately massive waste of time and money. Because if you're just going to go and spend a ton of money and you're switching majors 3 or 4 different times because you're not settled on anything, it's like, in my opinion, I think it's probably smarter for people to like take a gap year, do a lot of self-reflection, figure out what you're passionate about, like what you want to do, and then go in that direction, figure out whether you do need to go to college for that or not. Because yes, like you guys said, if you're trying to pursue a career like law, certain aspects of business like accounting maybe, or you want to go to medical school and be a doctor or surgeon, whatever it may be, then sure, college is definitely going to be your way to go. But I think for so many, especially like talking about like entrepreneurs and like general business route, I just think that it's the return on investment's not there anymore, and quite frankly, it's outdated.
100%. And I think that the argument that, if you want to, like, the networking aspect of college is a reason for you to go, I think is it should be completely debunked. When you could still network with the people at different colleges without actually having to attend there. Yeah. You could still get those networking benefits. But a better way to network is actually going out and talking to people in the spaces that you want to be in. Yeah. Go spend time there. taking on a bunch of debt, or even not taking a bunch of debt, it's still a time debt of 4 years that you're spending to go to college. Just for the networking aspects, you can network in any environment pretty much. Mainly, if you figure out what company you want to start or what industry you want to get into to potentially start a company later, go talk to the people in that industry that are working there now. If you want to be a startup founder, go to like one of these startup incubators, especially in a city like Austin, and basically just say like, hey, where can I provide value? Just be able to learn from these founders. Maybe you work as an employee in one of them for a little bit of time. You guys have a great exit, you make a lot of money, and then you start your business right there. And then you're on your way to being, a really serious entrepreneur. But, if people saying like, oh, go to college, even if you don't want to use your degree after, you're still going to network with a lot of people. It's total BS. It just really is. Like, you can still network with people at different colleges through LinkedIn. You're like, oh, I want, like, let's say, Josh, you came down here and, you didn't go to school. You literally like could hit up a bunch of these people on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I'm new to Austin. I have a couple friends to go to UT, but I'm really interested in working on this for my business. Would you be interested in helping me out or something like that?
And then you want to meet for some coffee?
Treat them to coffee.
Yeah.
You didn't have to pay $100,000 out of state debt for that.
Ultimately, I think it comes down to if you're going to network, or if you want to network, you will. If you aren't going to network, you won't. It's ultimately up to you at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you go to college or if you don't. Ultimately, it's if you're willing to actually reach out to people and put in the effort and ultimately like network that way.
Yeah, I mean, most of the college curriculum is pretty much designed for you to get set up to go work a job. It's not designed for entrepreneurs. Like I said, I had that one professor that basically said he taught Michael Dell in his class, and he would always see Michael Dell just get up and leave or just not go to class because Michael Dell was just building Dell computers. And if anything, that just motivates people not to want to go to class because it's just like they don't need it. Because in class, they're just setting them up to want to go try to get a job and go to the workforce, which is what you want to do. That's fine. But for an entrepreneur, if you already have your head set on an idea or something like that, you just need to go for it.
Yeah, and I'm honestly curious, because you recently graduated. How many people have you met throughout your college experience that you think could truly help you in your future business endeavors?
I would say a couple, but the thing at the end of the day is a lot of people are, at the end of the day, their biggest priority is their own career and stuff like that. So you can't ever really like count on, people down the road. Like if you think that like, oh, something would pan out. I think that I've met a lot of great people at UT, and there's a couple people doing really cool things that I would like love to stay connected to. And maybe there could be a potential partnership. But I think that either way, if I really wanted to, I mean, I meet a ton of people like that outside of UT. So I think it's just like a general path of life and getting to know really great people and cool people. I think UT helped me meet those specific people, but I don't necessarily think UT, no shade to UT, just the college experience in general helped accelerate my networking in any way. I think what we did with the School of Hard Knocks, just going and talking to so many people in downtown Austin in these wealthy areas, was far more an accelerated way to network, 10x versus what I was able to do at UT Austin.
Well, I think that just about wraps up episode 3 today. So once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to The Daily Entrepreneur. James, Jack, and Josh got a lot more of these coming. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned.